Okay, Dave, just through time constraints, I wanted to stop you there, but it's quite a turn of phrase. I was in a few robberies, but none of them were too bad. You need to elaborate a little bit, please.
Well, just like, there was no one taken hostage, or, you'd have a gun probably pointed at you, and look, but it wasn't. And you had the screen between you, which we used to pretend to all the new startups was bulletproof, but it wasn't. But the worst one, not the worst one, it was funny because when I was an area manager with Paddy Power, some of the staff had gone sick. So I went down to Ranelagh shop to open it up. So I went down and opened it up. Young cashier turned in, and next of all, this fella comes up to the counter with a knife. Give me the money. I said, what? He said, give me the money. So I went over, made sure the door was locked so he couldn't get in behind the counter. And then I broke into a lot of expletives, telling him what to do for himself and all. But he went over and he grabbed the man and put the knife to his throat. And I said, can I use language?
Of course you can.
I said, you fucking bastard, I'm going to bleed and kill you. But so I had to give him a few quid. So I gave him about 40 quid. I said, now fuck off. So he fucked off. And I said to the poor man, are you okay? And he said, yeah, he's great. So the police turned up and they said to your man, can you just stay, we'll get a statement off you. But in the heat of the hunt, the old man just slipped out as well and legged it. Now whether he shouldn't have been in Ranelagh or whether he was part of the gang, I don't know. But I was perplexed for a few days after. I was going, I wonder was he involved, that dirty pig.
And where was this?
Ranelagh.
Yeah, which is?
Nice part of Dublin.
So you're back in Dublin?
Just when I was back with Paddy Power, I was an area manager at the time, and as I said, some of the staff had gone sick, so I was a real hands-on area manager, probably too hands-on, because, look, it helped me because at one stage I would have had up to 200 staff. They all had my number. I was always very accessible to them, but it helped me run a very successful area, in that I'll always remember the head of ops one day said to another area manager, Jesus, Dave, his staff would lie down and die for him. And her reply was, well, that's because he's sleeping with them all. But I wasn't. I was just accessible to them. And because if someone rings you, no matter what their little minute problem is, to them it's serious if they're ringing you. So if you ring someone, it's like, you look at all retail businesses now, or any customers, they can't get in touch with their provider when there's a problem. So I used to get online customers when I looked after the racecourse shops, especially for Paddy Power, would travel up from the country to come and see me and say, Dave, can you sort this out for me? And that was one of the gripes I had with, we're a customer focused business and we don't talk to our customers.
Can we rewind just a bit? So you were in London, and then you got robbed a few times in Dublin.
Well, London and Dublin. I've been lucky. I've been robbed in two countries.
Any particular London robbery memories?
London robbery. The first one was the worst because I was working in a shop called Stroud Green or something. I can't remember, but the settler. You must remember we'd plenty of staff then. It wasn't like you'd have 2 or 3 cashiers, and I used to sit around the back settling. So I'm sitting around the back settling, and as I'd settle me winners, I'd bring them round to give to the guy and the girl or the payout to pay them out. So she'd file them from the guy handing his ticket. So I walked around with my tickets, and next of all I seen the 2 girls throwing. I said, what are you doing? They're throwing money over the counter. And he said, look, and your man's there with the gun. And I went, okay. And I just turned around and walked back and let them give out the money. But that was my first one. So you never forget your first one. It's like when you lose your cherry out other places. But hey, we won't go into that. We'll edit that one out.
So what was the decision to move back to Dublin from London?
Well, I'll tell you what was happening. I had great respect for, Mecca became William Hill then at the time, right? And they were starting to talk about night racing, right? Now, this was all foreign to us, night racing, where you'd be working till 9:30 at night and all. And, I remember going to a manager's meeting, and there was guys there who were with Hills from the 60s. So, they were coming into, they were in their 40s, 50s, wherever. I'm only a young buck at 23, newly married, child. And they're talking about, and they asked the question, what if we're not happy with these nights coming in? And they were more or less, if you're not happy, what you can do. And I went home to the wife and I said, they're not showing these managers any respect. I mean, these are the people who built the company. But by then, you see, what I think had happened is, the people who started William Hill and built it up, and Ladbrokes and all them, they'd all gone. And the accountants started to take over. And that's what happens to all firms. And the people, you have to understand your staff's needs and help them. If you don't help them, and if you're not being nice to them, I just said, they don't care about them. So if they don't care about them, they've built up the company. I'm only here 3 or 4 years. They're certainly not going to care about me. Ireland was probably starting to just pick up a little bit then. You know, wasn't like we have now, but it was just getting a little bit better. We had a new baby. I said, should we go back to Ireland? So we packed up and left.
And what was the first, you walked straight into a job in Ireland?
No, I didn't. I was back about a month before I got a job. And funny enough, the gas thing is, a lot of the Irish bookmakers over here, they probably thought that the staff who came from England weren't up to scratch. But if they only realised the training we had, And I was lucky, a good friend of mine, Eddie McMahon, I've known him since he worked for Ladbrokes when I was in England. He'd come over to Ireland to work in Ladbrokes. So I went to see him, and fair play to him, he got on to whoever was running Ladbrokes over here and said, look, you better take this fella on. So within 2 days I was in working for them.
And you were working in Kerry?
That was, well, look, I worked from Ladbrokes from 92 to 98. And then in 98 I joined the Double P, the Super Green. And that was always my ambition, to work for them, because Ladbrokes were a good company, but Powers were, in them days, were like, it was like, go and work for them. If you want to work in a betting shop, go and work for them. They're busy, they treat you really well, the crack is great. So I went to work for them in 98. And then in 99, we were always been going down to Kerry. My brother moved there in 1979 when the Pope came over. I think he ran down to Kerry. He was afraid of the Pope. So he had met a woman down there and got involved in the kids and we'd always been going down since I was gone from 1980. When I met my wife in 84, well, she was my girlfriend then. I used to bring her down, and she always said, I wouldn't mind living here. And then for some reason, we just got this, I think we'll move to Kerry. So we up and went down to Kerry. I went to work. I did a bit of relief managing around Kerry for Paddy Power.
And so how did your career progress with Paddy Power? Quite well?
Yeah, well, they always rewarded hard work. So I worked very hard down in Kerry. We had a great life, and the laugh down there was, Kerry men would say, what are you doing down here, boy? And I'd say, I'm on witness protection, don't tell anyone. So, you know what I mean? So that was, and it was great. And because, I must be honest, the level of service I brought down there, they'd never seen anything like it. I don't, no disrespect to them down there, right? But they hadn't got the customer service belief that, say, I had. So myself and the wife, she worked in Powers as well. We were like posh and becks. You'd walk into a pub in Tralee and you'd go to buy a drink and they'd say, no, such and such has got that for you. But we were never compromised, because I never compromised myself or anybody. So Tralee was a good experience. And then my wife, again, you always go where the women want to go. She says, I want to go home. I said, okay. So we moved back to, we priced ourselves out of Dublin prices then. So we moved to Navan in County Meath. And we were still working for Powers. And then in 2005, I got the opportunity to become an area manager of Paddy Power, which I grabbed with both hands, because it was just, I always felt it was a job I was cut out to do. It was just people. People is my forte. That's what I do best. I look out, listen, help them, never do anyone a bad turn. Just if you can do them a good turn, do them a good turn.
Right, so all that was part of your personality, which will help you with the job, but it was still an upgrade from what
an upgrade. I'll be honest, the day I went in and I was told I had the job, I'll be honest, when your man told me the salary, I turned around and said to him, listen, I need to go to the toilet for a second. I was that excited, you know what I mean? But I couldn't believe it. And and I had a great living out in Paddy Power. He gave me a great life. I met some absolutely wonderful people there. One of them being AK, who I do a bit for now. But they always had the best of the best working for them.
Tell us about Jimmy Mangan.
Jimmy Mangan to me was probably the biggest influence in my area manager career, because he had such a way with people and he knew the business. He knew that you can't just keep, trying to screw the punters. You got to give them a bit back. And it was the same with everything. In everything we ever did in Paddy Power to change, opening hours, this, that and the other. Jimmy, we didn't enforce it. You go in, we talk to the staff, and you bring them along with you. And that's what I learned from him. And and plus he's great crack. He really enjoyed a few points. I remember one day he said to me, Dave, I think your problem is you don't drink enough. So I said, okay, I'll prove on that now. And we've been friends for, when he left even, we still remain friends and I'd still see him. But what a man, his man management style and skills were second to none. And I'd even know myself, I would have had a monthly meeting with him. And look, yourself, sometimes the job gets on top of you. But you'd go into that monthly meeting spend a half an hour, and we'd go and do a few shop visits, and you'd be re-energized for the battles ahead. He just had a way of just getting you going.
And was the main crux of your job troubleshooting then? Is that what you did?
Look at troubleshooting and managing the business levels. It's very hard to manage. You let risk look after the business levels. The staff will bring in the business. An old friend of mine once said, and it's a true story, it's very hard to fill a betting shop, but it's very easy to empty it. And like every staff I ever talked to or interviewed or whatever, I said, look, we're in here, we're all peddling the same stuff, us, Ladbrokes, Hills, Corals, all of them. I said, what makes us stand out is the service we provide. So you wanted the best trained and the best informed staff so they could provide the service to the customer. Because the customer wants to know, you know what I mean, if you ask him a question, you're going to give him an answer. You don't go in and say to someone, which I've, over the years, have you got prices on the St. Ledger? Is that a golf tournament? These are some of the other companies where you'd ask these questions and these were the answer you're getting. Is that a golf tournament? No, it's a horse race, love.
And there's something that I've always found difficult myself working on course years ago, was you get to know your punters, you get to like them, but ultimately you want their money. So
you can take it off them in a nice manner, you know what I mean? And then when they win, like some of the, some of the managers used to take it personally if they were the shoppers. I said, look, the bloke was winning. Everyone has to win every now and again, So you always pay them with a smile, well done, because look, they're all going to come back. Even God, customers will always come back to you if you provide them with a good service. You know what I mean? Even I've heard it when we're on the course for 8K. We always, if there's a decent bet comes up, customer has paid, we're happy, we're smiling, we're laughing. And a few of them have remarked that to us. God, you really are, like, even when you pay me, you're not going to moan and you really have I said, but that's the way we operate. We're a good, happy bunch.
And when did the machine sort of surfaced before you finished with Paddy Power?
Oh, look, at the machine surface, to me, it was the death nail of where the big multiples cared about the customer, especially when the fobs came in. The fobs, they just took their eye off the ball completely then. Their over-the-counter business, they just weren't interested in it. Get as many fobs as you can in. And it was only when they got regulated. I mean, there was shops that had probably 10 fobs before they were told you can only have 4. And then they tried to get around that loophole by, they'd have a shop within a shop, so they could have 8 fobs. So they didn't care about the over-the-counter business. And now you've got the BGTs, these kind of self-service betting terminals. Look, they're not, in my mind, I'm an old-fashioned kind of guy, right? They're not the be-all and end-all. I know from working with Powers all the years I'm there, they're still not a major part of the Irish turnover. The UK, they're huge, but it's a different clientele over there.
And finally, from this part, what did you jump or were you pushed in the end?
Mutual consent. It was like, when now it wasn't one of them where they said we have every confidence in the manager, and then the manager leaves the club. No, look, my view on how the business should go in retail and their view were totally north and south. I still cared about the customer. I still cared about the staff. Unfortunately, I don't think they did. And that's where we collided. And I think they were probably happy to see me go because they probably saw me as a disruptor, and then obviously then they could get someone to do the job a lot cheaper.